Welcome to the second episode of Conference Carolinas Chats. We got a special treat today as we're joined by the committee chairs for all of our fall sports. It's obviously a very different time for all of our fall sports head coaches, so we thought it'd be a good time to have a conversation to all of them. Welcome to all y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
So Representative Chris Wally is our men's soccer committee chair. He'll be joining us in a little bit, but right now I have Cameron Stover, who's a cross-country chair from North Greenville, Jeff Lennox, the women's volleyball chair from Barton, and Andy Robinson, the women's soccer chair from North Greenville, will be starting today. So I'll start with Andy. Coach Robinson, obviously, as I just kind of alluded to, everything's different right now. This is obviously the most different fall sports season you've ever had, because it's completely not what you expect to have or want to have. How have your student athletes been, and what has this been like for you over the last few months?
Well, it definitely hasn't been boring. I will have to say that. It's been interesting from the fact of, like you said, we've never had to navigate something like this before. And I think what's made it interesting, I coach female sports, and the way it kind of all started back in March, everybody just disappeared. It was just get home, so there were no goodbyes, no closure, no nothing. So coming back into the season, there were a lot of question marks of, is the season going to happen? Is it going to stop? That kind of thing. So I think the hardest adjustment was the girls coming back and learning that there's a new normal. Yeah. You can't run up and greet and all that kind of stuff. But once they started to understand the parameters of, look, we don't want to go back to where we were, they've been great about making those adjustments and wearing their mask. And it just took us some time to, really kind of adjust to what that new normal looks like. And it's not like it was when you left, kind of thing. So, they've been resilient in that standpoint of, making those adjustments and doing the things to be safe, and the protocols that the school has put into place. So it's probably been the biggest thing, was just dealing with the frustration of, they want to, be back together and hang out like it used to be, but just that realization of it, there is a new normal.
And Jeff, obviously you add all of that, and then the fact that you have an indoor sport into this, what has that been like for you as you've tried to make sure everything was right for your student athletes on the campus, and make sure that you take care of all the little things to make sure it's the safest environment for them possible?
Yeah, that was definitely our top concern. And I think our administration, starting from our president down, and with our director of athletics, Todd Wilkinson, and associate AD, Brittany Woodhull-Smith, they really put a lot of thought into how we could train our teams, but in a very safe environment. And what lined up with how Barton decided to, open its doors and really have in-person classes. And so what we came up with was a phase system, which I'm sure a lot of other schools are doing something very similar. But it at first was, like Andy said, very different in adjusting to a new normal. But the girls are, they're resilient, and they want to be here, and they want to be around each other. And so they're essentially have done everything we've asked them since day one, and that's really impressed me. There's been no complaining. There's been no argument. They understand how important it is to take care of themselves and to be able to then protect the people around them. So when we asked them to wear a mask in our first few training sessions, no matter what, they did it without complaining. And then as we've progressed our phases and our groups, and we've brought more people into the gym, we're still asking them to do that in certain different times. And again, they've done an excellent job. So it's been really great to see how seriously they're taking it. It's also been really good to see them be a good influence on campus and be good examples to their friends, and telling them how important it is to keep wearing the mask. And today is we're in our fifth phase. We're able to have full exertion and practice and be a full team. And so we'll see how that goes. But, my assistant and I, we spoke, we're still going to have masks on. We're going to do it in the best, most proper way that we can to keep them safe and healthy. And again, that's the most important time in the fall. We're not competing till the spring. There's no reason to rush anything. Let's do it the right way. Let's keep them safe and healthy and keep them on campus.
And Cameron, obviously, you have a sport, and I'm not talking track and field. I'm just focusing on cross country right now because you got a lot of different concerns on your end. But at the same time, with cross country, you have something where they can obviously go and run, but I don't think a lot of people realize the team aspect of cross country and how much that comes into everything that you do. How have your student athletes responded to all of that and kind of working through as you're getting ready to see what the spring may look like?
Yeah, it's definitely been a challenge for us. For our sport uniquely, summer training is a big part of how cross country season plays out for us, and that was something that I'm probably most proud of is just how our athletes stayed focused throughout the summer. They were really committed to their training, even with not knowing if they're going to have a season. And so I told them, there's a good chance we won't have a season, but we have to train like we will. Just in case we have that happen. And so they did, and I'm really proud of them. And obviously it's unfortunate they don't get the opportunity to compete this fall, but we're looking forward to getting back into action in the spring. It's definitely been a unique time of trying to find different adjustments to make with them. Our sport is a little bit different. Typically during this time of year, we'd probably be right in the middle of cross country season. And right now we're just trying to figure out, what is our training going to look like, stretching things out, trying to get ready for the spring semester. Are we going to have a cross country season in the spring, or is it going to be indoor and outdoor? So there's just a lot of questions that are still up in the air, but we're doing everything we can do. They're staying positive, and they're still running on their own. We're getting together a couple times a week, just doing some basic stuff together. But you're right, there is a team aspect to cross country a lot of people don't realize. And so we're trying to do everything that we can to get them together and keep them together and keep some type of sense of normalcy during these times.
Andy, all of you have kind of mentioned how everything's changed, and as we all say now, the new normal, whatever the new normal really means, right? But with that new normal, as you're trying to prepare a team to compete, internally, and maybe a few games here and there this fall, but as you're trying to prepare them for the spring, how has that changed how you go about your daily work here in the fall, knowing that it's completely different in that regard?
Yeah, it changes your whole way of thinking and the way that you approach even the littlest of things. And the things that you took for granted before, you're having to spend a little bit more time in how to protect your athletes and how you go into training. And just with us, and our staff, it's been good to have, different perspectives going into that. But, even when we go out to train and they're on a bench, that changes. We've gone from a bench to now we have individual chairs that are out on the field, and we keep them two to a chair, kind of thing. So, it really causes you to think outside the box in protecting your athletes, and makes your job a little bit harder or a little bit more prolonged. But, it definitely causes you to think from, the gear that they wear, putting it into individual hampers and all that kind of stuff. So it's been good. It's caused us also to focus on other areas of the game. Like Jeff was saying earlier, we're in no hurry now. Now we're not jumping into the middle of the season. So things that we would normally rush through and just hope that they're getting, now we could spend more time making sure the technical aspect of the game is where it needs to be. And so even though COVID is, challenges in certain areas, the silver lining for us is that we've been able to kind of wade into our season, getting ready for spring versus, jumping right into the middle of the lake kind of thing. So we have enjoyed that part of it. And it has seemed to take a lot of stress off of our freshmen having to, acclimate to classes and all the new life and new normal, with not parents being there and that kind of thing. So it has a silver lining for us.
Oh, for sure. Jeff, we're focusing on you in this call as being a women's volleyball head coach, but obviously you have multiple roles, and how are you juggling, having two teams trying to go through this pandemic at the same time and trying to make all of that work is also with your men's volleyball program?
Yeah, it's definitely challenging at times, but this year I have an assistant, Ben Kaysen, who's been a huge help, and our athletes also have been used to me coaching both programs throughout the years. And, I put a lot of, onus on them to, be independent and, take care of themselves in a way where they know what's expected, and they know when they come into the gym, what's going to be necessary to be successful. So for them, it's not a huge surprise as, putting in a little bit of extra time to maybe clean volleyballs and make sure the gym is clean and set up and taken down properly so the teams can switch in and out. But for the most part, they're all just happy to be in there, to be honest. Again, it looks different, but both teams are ready to go. We're young on both sides, and they're happy to be here. They want to compete. They want to train. So they're going to do whatever we ask them at this point, and to stay healthy and to keep training and keep practicing. And again, that just makes it a little bit easier on me because they knew what they were getting into when they came here, that I coach both programs. So the toughest thing is how we're going to do it in the spring, right?
Yeah.
And so we're going to figure that out. It's not going to be a perfect scenario, but we're going to make it as absolute best as we can. And our athletes and my assistant and I are already thinking about how we're going to make that a great experience. So we got plenty of time. There's no rush. Just like Andy was talking about with all the technical stuff that we're really focusing on now, it's the same thing with, how we manage our time and how we're going to prepare and what the days will look like when we're running double headers and those things. So we're getting all that experience right now. We're brainstorming that. We're talking it over with our athletes, what's going to make it the easiest for them when we're in the spring and how both teams can function at the highest level. So thankfully, they're 100% always on board with whatever's asked of them, and I have a great group, and they're going to make it easy for me in the spring. I know it. So
awesome. Well, Cameron, much in the same way, that was kind of a great segue into the challenges and the opportunities that you're going to have in the spring with what could be multiple championships, multiple seasons, taking place at the same time. How have you already started the process of kind of looking into what that may look like, start preparing your athletes for what could be, what will be the most unique spring that in your sport that they've ever had?
Yeah, it will definitely be the most unique spring I think any of us have ever had. We had a conversation. We had a coaches call, I believe it was 2 Fridays ago, and all the cross-country coaches were having discussions about what would a potential cross-country season look like in the spring. And that provides a very unique challenge for us just because typically we would have an indoor season during the winter and an outdoor season during the spring. So trying to fit all 3 of those sports within one semester, really makes things difficult. And to even go deeper in that, we have a lot of kids that will do cross country, but when it comes to track season, they're more middle distance runners. And so their training looks so much different during track than it does during cross country. So these are all different things that we have to think about, things that we have to balance and weigh. I believe the conclusion that we came to as of now is if we do have an indoor season, we're probably just going to do a single cross-country championship for the Conference Carolinas. So it would be a 5K that would shorten the distance for the guys' side, allowing that transition to be a little bit smoother for track season. If indoor season is canceled, then I believe we're going to try to do a condensed cross-country season starting in January, having our championships towards the end of February, and then transitioning from there straight into outdoor. So I think as of right now, we're just still kind of waiting to see what the future is with indoor, and that's going to have a big influence on the way things will play out after that.
Yeah, and that's a great point. A lot of this is kind of one of the most unique things is that you're not just dealing with, for both of y'all, North Greenville, or for all of y'all, North Greenville and Barton, not just Conference Carolinas. You're trying to make it happen with the NCAA and stay within the realm of trying to work it. I'll go back to you, Andy. What has it been like to focus on things on your campus, but also try to work within the framework of the Conference Carolinas setting, but also knowing the NCAA has their challenges and everything? Well, it's been a lot of juggling, hasn't it?
It has been a lot of juggling, and at times it's frustrating because it seems like it changes, on a daily basis. But it's go back to the point of we're glad that we're here, and let's just focus on today. We pretty much have just told the players, let our administration and our coaching staff worry about all the ins and the outs and the do's and the don'ts. And you guys just work on training, enjoy being back. And then when tomorrow comes, we'll conquer that. But, it does make it a little bit more challenging because you're trying to navigate things that you don't understand and that you don't know. And try not to get hung up on the frustrations of, well, that's not the way it was done yesterday. Well, that's a different day. So, from our players' perspective, we just ask them to just lean into the game and, we'll tell you what you need to be doing and mask or no mask or whatever it is. And then we really leaned on our administration, which has done a great job of, navigating us through what expectations are and just keeping us in line so that we can participate and we don't do something that's going to take away those privileges. And so we're trying to look at the glass half full rather than half empty. And I think that's been good for us, and just taking it day by day and being thankful for, having that. And then we'll see what tomorrow holds.
Jeff, is that something that you've seen from your end, where the resolve of the student athletes may have gone up more than, because they've obviously, being a student athlete, I was a student athlete myself. Being a student athlete is hard enough in itself, but now adding all of these in it, Jeff, have you seen them kind of grow over the last few weeks in that regard?
Absolutely. I think, when you first, especially being a fall sport, we get here and the students that are new, whether they're incoming freshmen or transfers, they're trying to figure out, well, how are things done here? And normally they're in more of like a follow state. And then you have your leaders who, have been around and know how the program runs and how things operate. And what's really been cool to see is almost everyone has kind of taken that leadership position where they're going to really be a leader of themselves and do everything necessary to make sure their stuff's in order, they're healthy. We have a COVID screening test that they have to do every single day, and just everyone always being on top of that and communicating with our coaching staff and athletic training staff and strength coaches and all the things that need to be communicated. I've seen everyone step up through these phases in a way that maybe before they wouldn't have. They would have let our leaders take more of a role, and they would have kind of had a follow role. So it's been really cool, and I'm really proud of them, how they've all taken ownership of themselves and being accountable to themselves and our team, and doing everything in a way that they understand that it doesn't just affect them, it's affecting everyone around them in a really serious manner. So their resolve has been really high. They're not complaining about it, which I'll keep saying because I'm really proud of them for that. It's been awesome for us to ask them to do something, and then they just immediately do it with no questions, because they know we have their best interest in mind. And the other thing is that, we kept saying from day one, just because it's different doesn't mean it can't be better. And so that's the challenge that we've had to them, is when the NCAA changes something or the conference changes something or we're training differently, immediately think, okay, this is different. How can it be better? And the resolve in that and some of the ideas they've come up with and how they're being just really thoughtful about it on a daily basis has been really cool to see them take charge of what they want their experience to be as a student athlete here at Barton.
Hey, Cameron, much in the same way, obviously, with indoor last year, y'all hit some marks, got to some levels, and set some new standards for the program. And then, obviously that's aside from cross country. But is this time allowing you to kind of step back, take a more holistic look at the program, and also explain to them, the importance of all areas of being a student athlete?
Yeah, that's something that we constantly stress to them is that idea of being a student athlete. For us, something that we tell them every year, and when we talk to recruits, we have 4 program priorities, and that's faith, family, academics, and then track and field and cross country. So I think that there are a lot of coaches out there that will have their priorities a little bit different, but that's just who we are. And so we let them know up front that, we value the whole individual, and that's something that we want them to always keep in mind. And so when things like this happen, I think you do have to kind of step back and assess things. And I believe Andy touched on it earlier. You don't really realize what you have until it's gone. And so being a student athlete is a big privilege. It comes with a lot of commitment. And then, to have something like this come in and switch some things up, you have to be very flexible with it. And you have to just step back and take things into consideration that are more important, like your health and your family and things like that. So yeah, we've definitely had to, kind of zoom out a little bit and see things for what they truly are, and realize that what we have when we have is something we should be grateful for and not take it for granted.
Hey, I'm going to get you all out of here on the same question. I'll start with you, Andy. What excites you the most about the spring?
Getting to play. It's I think it goes back to what Cameron just said, and I think that's part of the reason the girls have been so optimistic is they had everything jerked away very quickly, and it goes back to what he said of you don't really appreciate something until it's gone. And so just being able to get out there and compete and be able to play again, and face competition, I think is what's really exciting everybody. It's just that it was gone. Everything was gone. You're confined to your house and to your room, and everybody's back. And so I think from our standpoint, the girls are just excited to be back together again, but to be able to compete, it's been such doom and gloom, and it's going to be canceled, and the ups and the downs. I think now that they've started and the conference has done such a great job of, giving them that hope, that right now they're just excited about playing. And so that has been tremendous. And I think that's probably what excites us the most, is just get out there and compete and use those abilities that they've been given. So,
Jeff?
Yeah, I'll have to echo everything that Andy said, but I'll obviously go a little direction more volleyball specific. I think it's going to help our conference grow the way that we decide to compete in volleyball, seeing how the matches, have been cut, the amount of dates, and, just playing mostly in conference. We'll have maybe a few matches out of conference here and there, but the idea of how important it is to prepare and compete inside of our conference, and then being able to have both teams, a men's team and a women's team, do that on the same day is a very different experience. And that's just really exciting. I think it's going to make volleyball more popular on our campuses. Hopefully we can be more popular in the communities. We can get some more fans, if fans are allowed at that point, or more viewership on the webcast, but just to maybe entice more people to be interested in volleyball now that we have more volleyball happening at one time. And so that's how I'm looking at it. It can be a very, very exciting spring. There's going to be a lot of volleyball being played, which we're going to love. And obviously the opportunity to compete. That was a throw-up softball question, so Andy hit that one out of the park. But, I think just growing volleyball and the amount of volleyball that's going to be played is really exciting to me.
Same question to you, Cameron.
Yeah, it's just the opportunity to compete. I mean, for our kids, it's been such a long time for them. We were actually in Birmingham for Division II Nationals, and it was the day before the prelims for some of our guys who are running at the national meet when things were canceled. And two of those guys are seniors, and it just broke my heart. One of those guys has actually decided to come back this year. And so I just know for them not having the opportunity to compete at the national stage when they were literally there the day before, and then not being able to compete during outdoor with some of the big goals that we had, particularly for our men's team. And so I know that just everybody's just very hungry to get back out there and compete in whatever aspect that looks like, whether that's just, amongst our conference teams or regional teams or whatever that looks like. Competition is competition at the end of the day. And that's why we all do sports. We love to compete. And so me as a coach, that's what I'm looking forward to, just for them to get back into the norm of just competing on a regular basis and not having that so far out in front of them, just to give them something to look forward to and give them something to really enjoy as a part of their student athlete experience.
Well, we really value all three of your time. Thank you so much, and appreciate you once again for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks Brian.
All right, everybody. As we mentioned, Coach Wally's going to be able to join us later on. Coach, how are you doing today?
Yeah, doing really well, thanks. It's a lovely sunny fall day here in Murfreesboro, so things are good.
That's good. Well, we were just talking a minute ago with the other sports committee head chairs for the fall. It's obviously the most unique fall you've ever had. What has it been like over the last few months for you and your student athletes, and how impressed are you with the way they've been able to handle everything?
Yeah, I think it's obviously it'll be a challenge that probably none of us would ever expect to have in our lifetimes, and hopefully we'll never have again. I think we've seen a certain amount of maturity. I think it's been very difficult because these young men and women have, been hoping and hanging on for a season, and then that doesn't happen, and now we're in restrictions in terms of how much we can do and what we can do. But, I'm just really pleased of how we were able to bring, about 98% of our squad back that we planned to bring in, and they're here and they're training and ultimately getting better. And we've ultimately tried to talk to this group of young men that we have about seizing the opportunity. It's an opportunity that we don't normally get in pre-season. Normally we're asked to get everybody ready in 2 weeks and get ready for the season. Here in a way, let's spin this thing and let's try and use these next 6 or 7 months that we have before we hopefully play in the spring to make our group better and hopefully have another chance to compete for a conference championship.
And obviously as a coach, one of the biggest things you deal with is not just trying to get them better on the pitch, but also trying to get them better in every area of life. How have you been able to talk to them maybe about some things that you wouldn't, obviously there's a ton going on in our country, there's a ton going on with different things. How have you been able to talk to them about just everything that's encapsulated what the last few months have looked like?
Yeah, I think the world's a different place, obviously, isn't it, than when it was maybe this time last year even, and, all the social issues that we've got going on. But I think it's given, it's obviously given a voice to a lot of people, but it's also given a lot of people the opportunity to think differently and look at things differently. And, we've talked to people about that. Let's not waste any opportunities that we have to improve or to get better. And that's not just athletically we're talking about, on the soccer field or whatever sports field it is you're in, but in the classroom, but also socially and understanding social issues. And, there's a bunch of things going on right now politically as well. So it's a chance for us to learn and improve as people.
And I'll get you out of here on this one, but, this is a softball, but what excites you most about the spring? You talked about getting out there and hopefully getting to play, but what excites you the most as you're preparing for that right now?
Well, for us, we've got a pretty big freshman class coming in, and a few junior college transfers and so forth. But for us, we're excited about really working with this group in the fall over a sustained period, and then getting them ready to play. I think we all just love to compete, don't we? And I think I'm a very competitive person. That's probably why I'm coaching college soccer, because I still want to have that buzz of competing week in, week out. So that's exciting. We're really super pumped what you guys have done at Conference Carolinas in terms of setting up a great schedule. And yeah, it's one of those where I'm counting down the days. I think it's February 20th, maybe. So it's getting closer as we go each week. But we're working hard. It's long days though for coaches right now. I'm sure the other coaches have said that. We've been doing groups of 6. That's 5 sessions a day. That's when you get to my age, that's a lot of time on a soccer field.
Well, we appreciate it. I know it's been different, but we appreciate your valuable time. We look forward to seeing you compete in the future.
Nah, thanks for everything you guys are doing for Conference Carolinas, and we're really excited to get out there and hopefully compete to win this thing again. Okay?
All right, see you later. Thanks, Coach. And that's it for today's episode of Conference Carolinas Chats. But we'll see you next week where we'll catch up with the leaders of our Conference Carolinas SAC and discuss all the great things happening with our Student Athlete Advisory Committee.